Today's fairy tale is another wild, wacky ride from Madame de Aulnoy, a French fairy tale with a giant crab, a creepy prince, and racism. You know, the usual. It's called either the White Doe or the Enchanted Hind, depending on your English translation. A king and queen really want a child, and one day this crab, although it's sometimes translated as a crayfish or a lobster, shows up and takes the queen outside to a fountain. There it turns into a nice old lady and says, "Hey, guess what? I'm a fairy. I'm gonna grant your wish." She takes her to this palace where all these other fairies have names that are different flowers, and they all say, "We're gonna bless your daughter with, beauty, intelligence, wit. You need to name her Desiree and call us as soon as she's born." So when the child gets born, she does. She calls on all the fairies, and they show up, give her the blessings. But turns out she forgot to call the fairy of the spring, the crab one. So she's super mad, and she's like, "I'm gonna get my vengeance on you. I decree that something terrible will happen to your daughter if sunlight ever touches her for the first 15 years of her life." Then she leaves. So the king and queen build a subterranean palace for their daughter so that the sun won't touch her for the first 15 years. When her 15th year is approaching, the mom has her portrait made and then sends the portrait out to other princes for her to get married. Our girl is, of course, very beautiful, so all the princes love her portrait, but one gets obsessed. He hides in his room and won't come out, won't eat, just stares at her portrait all the time. Finally, the dad is like, "Hey, you're creeping me out. What's wrong with you?" The reason the prince is upset isn't just because he's longing with love for the princess, it's that the dad has already arranged for him to marry the black princess. Sometimes in these stories, we don't know what black means. Maybe it means dark features or something, but in this one, it is a black person because they specifically say she is an Ethiopian. Son's like, "Dad, I know you want me to marry the Ethiopian princess so that we can be allies, but I have to marry this girl." And so the dad's like, "I don't want you to die, so I will say yes to you marrying this girl, and I will send an ambassador to tell them that, and I'll also send an ambassador to the black princess to tell her it's off." The ambassador is sent to our 14-year-old heroine. She sees the prince's portrait, she's down, she agrees to marry him, that's all arranged. Well, when the ambassador gets to the Ethiopian princess, she is mad because a deal got broken. And she's infatuated with the prince. And again, this is an English translation of the original French, but it says, "Ethiopians, when they do love, love to a greater excess than anyone else." And her ugliness is racist, with her dark skin, big lips, and large crushed nose, identifying how ugly she is. She tells the ambassador, "Fine, go tell him I don't want to marry him anyway because I don't like dishonest people," which, solid. But she still wants revenge, and turns out her fairy godmother is the crab fairy of the spring. So she tells her what happened, and they both say, "We're gonna get revenge on the 14-year-old girl." Meanwhile, the prince is still so lovesick, he's begging them to move up the wedding, but they can't do it till she at least turns 15. Because of the sunlight curse, not because it's horrible that he wants to marry a 14-year-old. But the princess doesn't want him to die, and so she's like, "Hey, put me in a carriage that's completely covered so no sun can get in, and let me go to him, and by the time I get there, I'll be 15, we can get married." She takes off in this armored golden carriage. She's also accompanied by her ladies-in-waiting and some of their mothers, because there's this jealous mother and jealous lady-in-waiting, and they just want a bad thing to happen to her, so they poke a hole in the curtain. Sunlight comes in, hits the girl, and she turns into a white doe and bursts out and runs away. Then our mad crab fairy creates a horrible storm so no one can follow her except this one faithful lady-in-waiting who manages to go after her. As often happens in fairy tales, the jealous mother and her jealous lady-in-waiting dress her up as the princess and try to pass her off as that to the prince once they get there, but she's horribly ugly. So the prince is like, "Oh my god, I can't deal with this, I'm gonna go off into the forest." Meanwhile, the faithful lady-in-waiting has caught up with our girl who is a deer now, and also one of the good fairies named Tulip has come to help them, and she leads them to this cottage where they live peacefully. Tulip can't change her back to a girl, but she can make it so she turns back into a girl at night, so she gets to be human every evening. Now, when the prince went into the forest despairing of his ugly bride, his ambassador came with him. They both end up seeking shelter at the cottage. The next day, the prince is out and he sees the white doe trotting around and he shoots at it, but the fairy protects her from getting shot. But the prince, who just tends to get obsessed, gets obsessed with the doe and keeps trying to find her and catch her. One day he chases her so long that he falls asleep, and then the girl, as the doe, comes in, and while he's asleep, she's able to really look at him, and she's like, "Oh, it's my man." So she purposely wakes him up, gets him to chase her again, and then she lets him catch her. She's exhausted and basically expecting him to kill her, but he lays down beside her and says, "Beautiful hind, I will not kill you. I will take you with me always, and you'll be mine." Like a pet. hopefully, just lays there caressing her and feeding her grass. But then it's almost night and she's like, I think he'll die of shock if he sees me change into a woman. So she manages to run away. She gets back to the cottage and tells the faithful lady in waiting, oh my God, I'm never gonna be able to be with him. When he finds out I'm this enchanted doe, he's not gonna want me. The next day when she's out as a hind, the prince sees her, shoots an arrow and hits her in the leg on purpose. And when she's wounded, he comes over and he's binding it up and he's like, does that not deserve what has happened to thee, little runaway? Yesterday you abandoned me, but now I'll take you with me, which, He takes her back to the hut and that night she transforms and he's like, oh my God, you've been the princess the whole time. They like bind up her wounds and she's like, you probably hate me. And he's like, no, I still love you. And she's like, yay. And then the next day she does not turn into a doe again. Them being reunited has broken the curse. The prince marries the princess and then the lady in waiting gets married to his ambassador because they were both loyal and good. And the fairy Tulip gives that lady in waiting 4 gold mines in the Indies, but she does it so that the lady in waiting can be as rich as her husband and he can never say, I have more money than you. No one gets punished and that's the end of the story. As always, check out my book, Dust Spells, a reimagining of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and my podcast, links in the bio.